July 1545, the pride of Henry VIII's navy, the warship Mary Rose, sank to the bottom of the sea. She took with her over 400 men, who for centuries were remembered as symbols of English valor. But what if that story, the one we all thought we knew, was wrong? What if the crew of this iconic Tudor ship wasn't just English? What if they came from all corners of the known world? Thanks to incredible modern science, the silent bones of these long-lost sailors are finally telling their true story. And it's a story that completely rewrites the history of Tudor England. Launched in 1511, the Mary Rose was a beast. A floating fortress bristling with bronze cannons, she was the cutting edge of naval warfare. For over 30 years, she was the fist of the English crown, serving in campaigns against France and Scotland. But on that fateful day, July 19th, 1545, disaster struck. While engaging a French invasion fleet right in front of King Henry himself, a sharp turn went horribly wrong. The ship heeled over, water flooded through her open gun ports, and within minutes she was gone. For over 400 years, the Mary Rose lay in a silent, watery grave, perfectly preserved in the silt of the seabed near Portsmouth. When she was finally raised in 1982, in one of the most incredible maritime recoveries ever, it was like opening a time capsule. Along with the ship's massive timbers, an unbelievable collection of artifacts came to the surface: weapons, tools, and the personal belongings of the crew. But most hauntingly, the remains of the men themselves. These bones were silent witnesses, waiting for a time when technology could finally let them speak. For a long time, everyone just assumed the crew was, well, English. White men, born and raised in southern England, probably from port towns like Portsmouth. It just made sense, right? But then, in the 21st century, science came along with new tools that would shatter that assumption. The key wasn't in old documents, but in the sailor's own teeth. You see, your teeth are like tiny, personal time capsules. The enamel that forms when you're a child locks in chemical clues from the food you ate and the water you drank. These chemical signatures, specifically isotopes of elements like strontium and oxygen, are different depending on where you are in the world. By analyzing the enamel, scientists can literally map where a person spent their childhood. So when researchers from the universities of Portsmouth and Cardiff started analyzing the teeth of the Mary Rose crew, they were expecting to find a lot of English signatures. What they found instead was astonishing. Not all of these men were British-born. In fact, some of them came from very, very far away. The isotopes in some teeth pointed to southern Europe, maybe even the Iberian Peninsula. And one individual, their chemical signature matched the environment of North Africa. This wasn't just a guess. Genetic data later backed it up, hinting at Mediterranean and African ancestry. Suddenly, the picture of Henry VIII's navy changed dramatically. This symbol of English identity was actually a multicultural, cosmopolitan crew. It tells us that Tudor England wasn't some isolated, homogeneous island. It was plugged into a global network of trade, diplomacy, and migration. The ports of London, Bristol, and Portsmouth were buzzing with international activity. We know African musicians played in Henry VIII's court, and Spanish and Portuguese traders were a common sight. The world was already becoming connected, and the crew of the Mary Rose was a perfect snapshot of that interconnectedness. How did these men end up on an English warship? They could have been skilled mercenaries. Gunners, for instance, were highly sought-after specialists, and many came from continental Europe. England was desperate to modernize its navy, so it hired the best talent it could find. Others might have been traders, freed slaves who made a new life in England, or even captured sailors who chose to switch sides. Whatever their personal journeys, they all stood shoulder to shoulder with their English shipmates, serving the same king. This discovery completely challenges the old popular image of Tudor England as a uniformly white and insular place. Our schoolbooks and historical dramas have often reinforced this myth. But the Mary Rose provides hard physical proof that this just wasn't the case. We're not just talking about a few isolated individuals. We're talking about a level of diversity right at the heart of the Tudor military machine. This lines up with other historical clues we've found in parish records and royal documents, which mention people of African and Southern European descent living and working in England at the time. The Mary Rose brings this written history to life. Let's dig a little deeper into this amazing science. Strontium isotopes, for example, get into our bodies from the local geology. Different rock types have different strontium ratios. So by analyzing the strontium in your tooth enamel, scientists can tell if you grew up on the chalky soils of southern England or the ancient rock formations of, say, the Atlas Mountains in North Africa. Oxygen isotopes work in a similar way, reflecting the local water sources which vary with climate. When you combine these different isotopic clues, you get a remarkably precise geographical fingerprint of a person's childhood home. For the Mary Rose sailors, the data pointed a clear finger towards warmer, geologically different places than Britain. And when you add DNA analysis into the mix, which can trace genetic ancestry, the evidence becomes undeniable. But this isn't just about data and isotopes, it's about people. Using this information, scientists and artists have created incredible facial reconstructions, giving us a glimpse of the men who served on this ship. One of the most famous is the Archer Royal. His isotopic profile suggests he grew up in North Africa, and his reconstructed face reveals distinct African features. He was likely a highly trained specialist, a powerful archer. Another reconstruction of a man with Mediterranean ancestry is thought to have been a gunner, another expert role. These faces remind us that history is made of real human beings, each with a unique story. Despite their different backgrounds, they worked together, fought together, and ultimately died together. The story of the Mary Rose has truly transformed our understanding of Tudor maritime history. This wasn't just an English navy. It was a global one. It drew in people, technology, and ideas from all over the world. This diversity was a strength. Skills in shipbuilding, gunnery, and navigation were enriched by this cross-cultural exchange. Immigrants and foreign experts helped build England's naval power. The ship itself was a microcosm of early globalization, a floating community that reflected the complex currents of empire, war, and trade. Today, the Mary Rose Museum in Portsmouth is a breathtaking tribute to this history. You can see the ship's actual timbers, the tools, the weapons, and the personal belongings of the crew, their shoes, their bowls, even their rosary beads. But the most powerful legacy is the truth that science has uncovered about who these men really were. They force us to rethink what it meant to be English in the 16th century. Tudor England was a dynamic, multicultural society, and its people carried the stories of far-flung lands within them. The sinking of the Mary Rose was a national tragedy, but her rediscovery has been a triumph. By studying the teeth and bones of her crew, we've found a story far richer than any chronicle of kings and battles. It's a story of human connection that stretches across oceans and centuries. The sailors who died that day weren't just Englishmen. They were citizens of a wider, more complex world, brought together by the tides of history. They remind us that diversity isn't a modern invention. It has always been a part of Britain's story. In the end, the Mary Rose gave her crew a voice again, proving that even in the heart of Tudor England, the world had already come aboard. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. See you next time.